a couple of announcements. These are the next 3 sessions. We will probably have just 1 session per month going forward. There might be some exceptions, but for now, it's what we are planning to do. In February, we'll have Adam Collins, who is a product manager of Microsoft. So he works for the Excel product team in Microsoft, and he will come to present about what they are up to these days. They are always launching new things, and that's our next presentation, February 23rd. March 2nd, we will have David Benheim. He's an MVP, and he will be talking about Google Sheets and Excel, what kind of features we have in both, what features are in one of the products or the tools that does not exist in the other. And then we will have dear Bill Jelen, longtime MVP as well, presenting about pivot table tips and tricks. There's also something already being prepared for May. So if you want to present, make sure to secure a date soon, because we are now scheduling for June. If we keep doing one session only per month. This probably will be my last time talking about this event. It's happening soon, February 6th to 9th. It was supposed to happen in person in London. It won't be like that. It will be completely online. And yesterday, because I'm going to be one of the presenters, yesterday I was at a meeting where we were being presented the platform where the event will happen. And I can only tell you that every one of you, I recommend that every one of you joins, even if it is just with a free ticket. There are different modalities of tickets, and one of them is for free and gives you access as like if it was a fair, an exhibition hall. So, and it's just amazing how they recreated what would be a live and in-person event on an online platform. Is really cool to see that. So I recommend that you check that out. And if you are interested in listening to the presentations, there's 2 days of presentations, the 6th and the 7th. And then there's 2 more days for those of you who are interested in joining master classes and learning a specific topic. I'll be teaching Power Query fundamentals there. Those 2 days, the 8th and the 9th of February, and there's different modalities of tickets that you can buy depending on what kind of what you are interested about the event.
6th and 9th February.
Yes, 6th to 9th, and if you end up purchasing your ticket, you can use this code Celia-10%, and it will give you 10% discount on your ticket. There's a Power Platform Bootcamp event also happening soon in February 19th to the 20th. Also, please check that that link there. I will put these links in the chat after my presentation here. Just a quick announcement, just came out this week to the stock history feature. I'm going to just mute everyone and then unmute myself because someone has the microphone open. Let me see if I can.
Smile.
Okay, muting. Let's see if that helps. Yes. So the stock history is a new feature in Microsoft Excel that just became available for all of us who have Microsoft 365 subscription. It's available for Mac, for Windows, and Excel Online. So just I wanted to let you know. I'll put the link there too in case you want to check that out. And that's pretty much it. We will have Nabil Mourad with us today. There's his contact information there. Feel free to reach out on social media, mine as well. If you decide to post, that will be helpful for us to spread the news about the group. If you think the sessions are helpful for you, maybe other people could benefit from it on your networks. Put the tag MS Excel Toronto if you do that, so that we can see your posts and commenting there. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let me just stop my presentation. I want just to present Nabil, and he will then has a lot to teach us today. Nabil, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
I first met Nabil 2 years, a little over 1 year, almost 2 years ago, when we created when we started the meetup group here in Toronto. Nabil reached out, and I had never met him or saw his content until that time, and I was very impressed when I checked his YouTube channel. If you don't follow his YouTube channel, I strongly recommend you to do that. His content is amazing, as you will see today. And these tutorials, it's so detailed and so well prepared. So I'm very excited to have Nabil here today with us. He is a computer applications teacher, professor at one of the colleges here in Toronto area, George Brown College. He also provides professional training, corporate training in several applications. So a lot of experience with all, not only with Excel, but also other Office applications. His website and YouTube channel is called Office Instructor. Nabil, thank you for coming to present for us today. Nabil just wrote an entire book only about data validation. So can you imagine that? I think I could summarize what I know about data validation maybe in one paragraph. That would be good. So if you stay until the end, I know that Nabil has some gifts for us at the end. So stay tuned, okay? Nabil, let us know what you have there for us.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can I share my screen, Celia?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share this one.
I was spotlighting you.
Can you see my screen now?
It says testing.
Wonderful. Then one more time, I would like to welcome everyone. It's 5:45 p.m. in Toronto, and I'm going to start right away. I would like to start by thanking Celia and the organizing team at the Microsoft Excel Toronto Meetup group. It's a pleasure to be with you for the second time. I would like to thank fellow MVPs who came to support me: Oz de Soleil, Alan Murray, Vivek Patel, Celia Alves, of course, and I hope I don't forget anyone, but these are the names that I could see already. I would like to thank the audience, each and every one, for taking the time to attend this session live, and I hope you find value in my presentation. I will start by introducing myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Nabil Mourad, and like all of you, I'm an Excel lover. My passion to Excel started some 20 years ago. I didn't have a need to use Excel in my industry. I was working in a completely different industry. But out of passion, I learned Excel and other Microsoft Office applications. And out of passion as well, I started taking certifications. So I earned the Microsoft Office User Specialist Master Instructor in Office 2000, which is not available anymore. They don't offer a Master Instructor certification. And then I took all the Microsoft Office Specialist certification in all versions: 2003, 2007, Office 2010, 2013, 2016, and 2019. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. I've been a trainer since 2008, and I'm proud of this specific certificate, as I always say, because it was signed by Bill Gates at that time. And I have been a Microsoft certified trainer for 12 years now. In 2010, I moved from my home country, Egypt, to my new beautiful home country, Canada. And since I came to Canada, I worked as a professor of business computer applications at George Brown College. The best time I spend is the time I spend with my students in class. And you can imagine these pictures were taken before the pandemic because now all the courses have been virtualized. We are looking forward to resume the courses in class. On the 1st of January 2020, last year, I got some exciting news from Microsoft saying that I received the MVP award. Besides teaching at George Brown College, I also deliver corporate training. I delivered thousands of trainings in the past years, whether in Canada or remotely worldwide. I also manage a YouTube channel, a popular YouTube channel, where I have hundreds of tutorials. I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/Office Instructor. And I have a certain concept in my tutorials. I like to simplify complex topics and break them down into digestible part. I believe in a quote by Albert Einstein saying that if you can't explain it simply, you probably don't understand it well enough. And during the pandemic, the work was very slow for everyone, everywhere in the world. So I spent few months writing a book, and my book was about data validation, a backdoor to master Excel. This book is available on Amazon and on my website as well, as I'm going to talk about that later. And because of data validation, the book that I wrote, that will be the topic of my presentation. So let's get started. In any Excel spreadsheet, we have 17,179,869,184 cells. This is the equivalent of 2 to the power of 34. And by default, all these 17 billion cells have data validation applied. So when I say I'm creating data validation in a cell or a range of cells, that's not really very accurate because data validation is already applied by default. Because we have 8 categories of data validation, and the default one is any value applied to all the cells. So we are simply changing the default to another category of data validation. To apply data validation after selecting a cell or range, we go to the Data tab of the ribbon and click on Data Validation. Alternatively, you can hit the shortcut Alt-DL, and this dialog box will open, showing the 8 categories of data validation. Let's have a look. These are the 8 types of data validation we have. Any value being the default, then whole number, decimal, list, date, time, text length, and custom. I covered all these types in profuse details in my book. But among the types, we have list validation. So if you select list validation, then this dialog box to the right side will open. I can access the same dialog box by using a shortcut, Tab L Tab. So if we put them together, Alt-DL, Tab L Tab, I will bump into this dialog box. For your information, this shortcut is important because L stands for list. If you replace this L with an A, so you hit Alt-DL, Tab A Tab, A stands for any value, then you can use this shortcut to clear, delete the data validation without opening any dialog boxes. Alt-DL, Tab A Tab. Under list validation, I discussed many subcategories, like creating a basic drop list, a searchable drop list, a diminishing drop list, switching charts with drop lists, changing functions with drop lists, creating a slicer drop list, triggering macros with drop lists, lookup pictures, show or hide conditional formatting, extracting records, changing the source data for Power Query, and dependent drop lists. Dependent drop list is one out of 12 subcategories of drop lists, and drop list is one out of 8 categories of data validation. Our session today is about dependent drop lists. What does it mean, a dependent drop list? Well, a dependent drop list simply means we have a primary drop list and we have a secondary drop list. The contents or the items in the secondary drop list change based upon our selection from the primary drop list. Creating a drop list often requires some preparation, like removing the duplicate values, because you don't want to see the same item being repeated in the drop list. So when I switch to Excel, I'm going to start by showing you 5 different methods for removing duplicates. We do have more, but I'm just showing you the most common types or the most common ways of removing duplicates. I classified in my book dependent drop lists based upon the way we create them, and I classified them into 3 categories. So you can create dependent drop lists by using classic functions. You can create dependent drop lists by using dynamic array functions. And there is another category that I called special, and I'm going to talk about that in a few seconds. When we talk about classic functions, what comes to my mind immediately are 2 popular functions, the indirect function and the index function. So these 2 functions are classic functions that can be used for creating dependent drop lists. But because the index function can be used in an array style or in a reference style, then I'm going to show you an example for each one of them and compare the advantages and disadvantages of each one. Dynamic arrays are available in Microsoft 365. And when I create a dependent drop list by using dynamic array, I look at the source data. Is it a pivoted source data, which means it has column headers and row headers? Then I use an XLOOKUP function. If it's a normalized source, then I have other options. I need to create some preparation lists for the dependent drop list. These preparation lists could be vertical or could be horizontal, depending upon the real estate you have in the worksheet. So we can create a vertical preparation list by using a unique and filter function, or a horizontal preparation list by using a unique, transpose, and filter function. In this case, the second drop list, the dependent drop list, will be created either by using an XLOOKUP function or by using an ifs function. And by the way, the ifs function is available in Office 2019 as well. On the 22nd of July last year, I presented at the Global Excel Summit, and my presentation was about creating multiple levels of dependency. I created a project in which I had 6 levels of dependency. So under special, the first type under special will be the multiple dependency. And then there is another type, which is not a real dependency. It's an illusion of dependency. It's just a visual dependency. And finally, the last example that I'm going to show you is the single cell dependency, where the primary and the secondary drop lists live in one single cell, and I switch between them. This presentation is fast-paced because we have a lot of content and a limited time. So if you miss a step or if you miss an example, no worries, because I have a gift for you by the end of the presentation. And this gift is a graphic reference guide. It's a graphic reference guide that maps 100% to my presentation. So you will be able to reproduce the examples, and you will be able to create nice projects using dependent drop lists. We have a lot to learn. So let's switch to Excel. Well, here is my exercise file, and I will make this file available for you to download. And here is my book available on Amazon. I'm very proud to have received these nice comments from fellow MVPs, Bill Jelen, Minda Tracy, Oz du Soleil, and Leila Gharani. So you will find some information about this book in the exercise file. As I said, the first thing I want to do is to prepare for creating my drop list. What does it mean? It means I want to remove the duplicates. How can I remove the duplicates? Let's look at this data set where I have a date column, a region, a manager, payment, sales, and I would like to create, let's say, a drop list for the region. Then the first technique I'll be using is to remove the duplicates by copying this entire column. I select the top cell. I use the popular shortcut Shift Control down arrow, and I want to copy this column because I don't want to mess up my original list. So I copy it, and let's say I paste it here in cell A6, Control V to remove the duplicates. We have a predefined tool that is available on the data tab of the ribbon. If you go to the data tab just above data validation, you will see remove duplicates. So I can open it from here, but I'm going to close it. And because I'm a big fan of shortcuts, then the shortcut for this one is Alt-AM. I'm going to write down some of the new shortcuts that might be less popular. So I'm going to switch momentarily to my projector. And here I'm going to write the shortcut Alt-AM for opening the Remove Duplicates dialog box. I hit OK, and I would have removed the duplicates. The second method for removing duplicates is by using an advanced filter. So let's assume I want to create a unique list of regions. I'm going to use this time an advanced filter. And as you already know, advanced filter is also available on the data tab. You can open it from the data tab, or you can use the popular shortcut Alt-AQ. So if I go back to Excel and then I hit Alt-AQ, I'm opening the advanced filter dialog box. Well, for my list range, I just want the region. I expand my selection, Shift Control down arrow, and then I want to copy to another location. I click on the radio button for copy to another location. I put my blinking cursor in the copy to box, and then I select the destination. The most important thing is to check this box, unique records only. When I hit OK, I would have extracted a unique list of value. Don't forget, we are still preparing for creating drop lists. We are still preparing for creating data validation. Another way for creating data validation is by using pivot tables. So let's assume I want a list of managers. Then I'm going to use my source list for creating a pivot table. And I do that by going to the Insert tab of the ribbon and click on Pivot Table to the left side of the Insert tab. The shortcut is Alt-NV. And from here, I want to create my pivot table in the existing worksheet. I select a destination, and then I hit OK. Here is my pivot table field list. All what I need to do is to drag the manager to the rows, and I would have created a unique list of managers. Should you wish to bring the label managers here at the top, instead of typing, you can make it dynamic by clicking on the Design tab and just changing the report layout and make it show in tabular form. Then I was able to bring the label. Definitely, I don't want grand total, so I remove it. I can also create a unique list by using Power Query. And to use Power Query, we need to convert our list into a table. If you don't convert it into a table, you will be prompted to convert it into a table. How do we do that? I can either go to the Data tab of the ribbon and click on. I can either go to the Data tab and click From Table Range, or use the popular shortcut. I'm going to write it down. Alt-A-P-T. So I'm going to switch to Excel, use my shortcut Alt-APT. And although I didn't convert my list into a table as usual by hitting Control-T, I'm prompted to convert it into a table. I'm going to hit OK. My table has headers, and that will trigger the Power Query window. And let's assume my Power Query is opening on my other screen. Let me bring it here. Okay, and let's assume I want a unique list of payments. That's very easy. This is the basics of Power Query. You can remove the other columns by selecting the column you want. You right-click, select Remove Other Columns, and then I want to remove the duplicates. Then here at the top on the Home tab, I have Remove Rows. I click on the drop list and select Remove Duplicates, and I'm done. I want to send it back to Excel, so I click on Close and Load. Close and load to, and here I specify a destination in the existing worksheet, and then I hit OK, and I would have created a unique list of payment. The last method for creating a unique list of values, or in other terms, removing duplicates, is by using a dynamic array function, one of the very popular dynamic array function, the unique function. Because I want to use cell references, then I'm going to convert this table back into a list, convert to range. And I want to create a unique list of payment by using the unique function. So I type equal unique, and then I hit tab. I want a unique list of payments. I select the first value, shift control down arrow, and then control backspace to jump back to the top without locking. I close the bracket, and then I hit enter. I get a unique list of payment. If I wish to get it in alphabetic order, then I would wrap it in a sort function. I'll be doing that later. 5 different methods in preparation for creating drop list. Now, let's have a look at the diagram. I will start creating dependent drop list using classic functions, then using dynamic arrays. Then I'm going to show you the special methods or special types of dependent drop lists. So I click on the next worksheet, Indirect, and here you will see like a picture of the diagram that I used. We are here at the Indirect. We are creating classic function using the indirect function. My primary drop list is always simple to create. So if I want to create a primary drop list, and in this example, I have a list of regions and employees in each region, then I want to create a primary drop list for the regions and a secondary drop list for the employees. So when I change the region, I see the employees in that region. My primary drop list is pretty straightforward. I select the cell, that's my destination. I go to the Data tab, and then I click on Data Validation. As I said, the shortcut is Alt-DL, Tab, L-Tab. When I click here, the Data Validation dialog box opens. I want a list, so I select List. I put my blinking cursor in the source, and then simply I click and drag to select the region. I'm selecting the 3 regions. I could type the values separated by commas. When I hit OK, I would have created my drop list. Let's select one of the regions. Now that I have a region, I want to create a list that extracts the employees in each region. Remember, using the indirect function, that's the simplest technique for creating a drop list. And to do that, I need to name these ranges. I want to name the first set of employees following the name of the region, South. And the second set, I want to name it West. And the third one, I want to name it North. And I can do that in one single step by using a functionality called Create from Selection. Create from Selection is available on the Formulas tab of the ribbon. But I have first to select the entire list by hitting Control-A to select the entire list. And then I'll be using the popular shortcut Control-Shift F3. That will open the Create Name from Selection. So if I hit Control-Shift F3, I just make sure that left column is not checked because I want to use the top row only. And when I hit OK, I would have created names from selection. Let me check. If I go to the name box and click and select, let's say, South, now Excel recognizes the list of employee by the column header by the top row. Having done that, then I have West for the primary drop list. What if I want this list? Then I want the list named West. But if I type West, Excel will think I just want the text West. I want to tell Excel that what I mean is indirectly the named range West. So I do that by creating my second drop list, Alt-DL, Tab-L-Tab, and in the data validation drop list, I type equal indirect. I open bracket, and I click on cell B2, my primary drop list, and I close the bracket. When I hit OK, I would have created my second dependent drop list. If I go to the first one and change and I make it South, then the contents of the dependent drop list change on the fly. We finished the first example, and I want to move to the other example in which I use the index function. So I'm going to move to the next worksheet. By using the index function, you are creating not only dependent drop list, but you are creating dependent resizable drop list. Let me show you what I mean. But before I do, I assume you already know that if you start typing equal index, and then I hit tab, it's one of the functions that brings two screen tips. What does it mean? It means you can either use it in an array style, or you can use it in a reference style. There is a clear difference between both of them. If you use the array style, you can type your function inside the data validation dialog box. If you use the reference style, you cannot do that. You have to use a defined name. Let me show you an example of each. I have the same exact setup where I have the regions and employee names. And in order to use the index function in an array style, then I have to convert my list into a table. And this is done easily by selecting a single cell. And table starts with T. If I hit Control T, I would have converted my list into a table. Why did I convert it into a table? And you might know that you cannot use the table name in the data validation dialog box. If you do, you will get an error. But I did that because it will help me creating an expandable or resizable table. It will expand horizontally and it will expand vertically. If I add more regions to the right, then they will be included. If I add more employees, they will be included as well. But because I cannot use the table name inside my data validation drop list, then in this case, I'm going to create two defined names. I want to name the headers and I want to name the values. How do I do that? By going to the Formulas tab of the ribbon and click on Define Name. And then I'll be typing a name, regions. And this name refers to, I'm deleting everything in the refers to box. And I just want to hover to the left side of the header. And when I click, keep an eye on the refers to box, it says you selected the headers. I hit OK. That means if you add more headers, if you add more regions, they will be automatically included in the primary drop list. What about the second one? Well, for the records, for the employee names, I need to do the same exact thing, creating a defined name. I can also go to the Formulas tab and click on Define Name, or use the popular shortcut Control-Alt-F3. When I hit Control-Alt-F3, here I'm going to give a name to this box, to this range, EMPL, and it refers to the table without the header. So I'm deleting everything in the refers to box. I hover over the corner. When I see this rotated black arrow, I click. And it says I selected the entire table. I hit OK, and I'm done. Now I'm ready to go and create my two drop lists. We are using an index function with an array style. For the primary drop list, that's pretty simple. I select the cell, and as I showed you, I'm going to use only the shortcut until the end of this session, Alt-DL, Tab-L-Tab. In the dialog box, I want to create my primary drop list for the regions, and I named it, but I don't remember the name. So we have a helping key, the F3 key. If you hit F3, then it will open the paste name dialog box. From here, I can select region. A little note here. If you want to create a function and use the F3 and refer to multiple named ranges, the F3 key doesn't work twice in this dialog box. I don't know why, but this is how the Excel team created it. You cannot use it twice, only once in one single function. Okay, I hit OK, and here is my list of regions. If I select North, then I can select any region. If I go and add more regions, let's say East, now if I hit Enter, I click on the down arrow, now the East has been included. What about the secondary drop list? This is where I'll be using my index function. Although I can write this index function directly inside the data validation dialog box, but I want to show you how this function works, so I'm going to create it outside, then copy it inside the data validation dialog box. So I'm going to type equal index, and then I hit tab. Index, where is the array from which you want to return values? I want to return values from this range, the employees. I can hit the F3 to bring the paste name dialog box and select employee instead of typing, and then I hit comma. What's the row number? No, I don't want one single row. I want all the rows. Then I'm going to skip this argument by typing a comma. And what about the column number? I don't know. It depends upon the region. So if I select the South region, I need the first column. West, I need the second, and so on. So which function can help me in this situation? It's a match function. So if I type match, and then I hit tab, match of what? What's your lookup value? My lookup value is whatever comes from the first drop list. I select it, I can lock it if you want, and then I hit comma. What's your lookup array? Where do you look for this value? I look for this value in the top row, but I named it. I named it regions. I hit F3, and I bring regions here. I hit OK, and then comma. Look, I used the F3 key twice in a function because I'm in the worksheet. If you try to do that inside the data validation dialog box, it won't work. Trust me. Okay, the last argument. I'm looking for an exact match. Exact means 0. Close the bracket for the match. Close the bracket for the index. Hit enter, and here is the list. Is it dynamic? Let's test. If I select, let's say, West, the list changes. What's the disadvantage? The blank cells return zeros, but they will be blank in the drop list. Let me test by adding some names. So if I add, let's say, Celia, if I add, let's say, now if I test, I select the East region, and then I go down. Here I didn't create the list, but I can see the list of name. Let's create the second drop list. I can simply copy this function to save time instead of recreating it. Control-C, I hit escape, and I delete the function. All what I need to do is to open the data validation dialog box, Alt-D-L, Tab-L, Tab, and in the data validation dialog box, I paste my function, and I'm done. Now, if I look at the East region, here are the names. Let's select any one of the names. So this is the first method of using the index function. What about using the index function in a reference style? What does it mean, reference style? It means instead of having one single source and all what you decide is a row number and a column number, no, you have multiple sources. And you have to specify which source you want to use. And because of that, I named each one of these columns. I created a special table. I named them T South, T West, T North. So if I go to the drop list of the name box and select, let's say, T South, it has been named already. If I click and select, let's say, T North, here it is. These are the three ranges that I'll be using in my index function with a reference style. Let me move this picture to the side. And let's create the index function with a reference style, equal index, and then I hit tab. And because I'm using the reference style, then I need to provide the multiple sources first. How do I provide them? In bracket, I open bracket, and then I say, I want this first table. I hover over the top left corner and click, and here is the name, comma. What's the second source? I click in the upper left corner, and here it is, another comma. I click in the upper left corner, and I selected the three sources, and I close the bracket. That was the first argument of the index function, which is reference. And then I hit comma. When I hit comma, I'm in the second argument, row number. I don't want the row number because I want the entire list. So I skip it by typing a second comma. Now I'm in the column number. I don't need to provide anything because each one of these tables consists of one single column. Then I'm going to skip this one as well. And finally, what's the area number? Area number means you need area 1, which is south, 2, west, 3, north. And the function that helps me do that is the match function. So if I type match and then I hit tab, what's your lookup value? This is a dependent drop list. It depends upon the primary drop list. So I select myself for the primary drop list. I'm selecting my primary drop list in B2. I hit comma. Where do you look for this? Well, I look for this in the top row. So I click and drag to select the top row. And then I hit comma. This is another exact match. So I type 0. I close the bracket for the match. I close the bracket for the index function, and this is my index function with a reference style. Because south is selected, look what happens when I hit enter. It extracted the names from the south region, and if I change, it extracts the name from the selected region in the primary drop list. What happens if I copy this function and I do what I did in the previous example? I want to paste it inside the data validation dialog box, assuming that it will work, but I know it won't work. So I'm creating my second drop list, Alt-D-L tab L tab, and I'm pasting my function, and I hit OK, and look what happens. It tells me, forget it, you can't do it. Then I'm going to close and cancel. Then what is my other option? My other option is to create a defined name. Store this function in a defined name and then go and talk to the data validation drop list. Defined name is available on the Formulas tab or by using the shortcut Ctrl-Alt F3. Here I'm going to give it a name. And let's name it my list. And I'll be pasting my index function. I still have it in memory. I hit OK. And now instead of using the index function with reference style, I can use the defined name that I created for creating my dependent drop list. Alt-D-L tab L tab. And then what's the name? I can't remember. Hit F3. And here is my list. I hit OK and OK. And here is my dependent drop list. I finished the example in which I use the classic function, whether with an indirect function or an index function. I used the index function in an array style, and I used it in a reference style. Now my next example will be moving to dynamic arrays. As you already know, dynamic arrays are only available in Microsoft 365. And if you have a pivoted source, you can use the XLOOKUP function. The XLOOKUP function was introduced or was announced for the first time on the 28th of August 2019. And the XLOOKUP function is a very powerful function. It has the advantage with data validation is that it can be created directly inside the data validation dialog box, unlike the unique and filter function, unlike the index function with a reference style. I already created the first drop list because we don't want to waste time repeating the same process. This is a pretty straightforward drop list, the primary drop list for the region. And I'm going to use the XLOOKUP function for extracting the corresponding list of employees. So I'm selecting the cell directly because I'm using an XLOOKUP function. And here I want to create my dependent drop list, Alt-D-L tab L tab. In the source box, I'll go and type equal XLOOKUP. I open bracket. I don't see the screen tip here, but I'm going to tell you what the screen tip is saying. It says, what's your lookup value? Well, my lookup value is what comes from the first drop list. And then I hit comma. It asks me, what's your lookup array? Where do you look for it? I'm looking for it in the top row. And then I hit comma. And finally, it asks me, where do you want to return value from? I want to return value for the employees, so I select the entire list of employees, and I close the bracket. Pretty straightforward, very simple, can be created in the data validation dialog box. I hit OK, and let's test. I have West, and here is the list of employees in the West region. If I change and I select South, now I have a list of employees from the South region. And that was my first example of using dynamic array in a pivoted source using XLOOKUP. If you have a normalized source, then the situation is completely different. What does it mean, a normalized source? A pivoted source means you have column headers, you have row headers. It's more human-friendly. While a normalized source is different. It doesn't look nice for my personal use, but it's much more machine-friendly. So let's have a look at a normalized source. I go to the next worksheet where I have a list of countries and I have a list of cities. And because in each country I have multiple cities, then what do you see? France and then Paris. If I go further down, France, Marseille. If I go further down, I have France, Lyon. So for each city, the name of the country is repeated. This is a normalized source. In order to create a primary and dependent drop list, when you have a normalized source, then you have to create preparation lists. And the technique differs whether you are creating a vertical or a horizontal preparation list. Here, I'm creating a vertical preparation list. I'm in this part of the diagram where I'm using a normalized source, and I'll be creating a vertical preparation list to be used in my primary and dependent drop list. The concept is different whether you are creating a vertical or a horizontal setup. For a vertical setup, we follow this process. Preparation 1, drop list 1. Then preparation 2, drop list 2. That is totally different than what I'm going to do next. So let's get started. I want a list of unique values for the country. I'm definitely using the unique function, equal unique. I hit tab. I want a list of unique values for the country. Shift control down arrow, control backspace to jump to the top, and I close the bracket. I'm done. If you want to get an alphabetic source, an alphabetic sorting, then I can wrap it inside a sort function and close the bracket. So here is an alphabetic list of countries. I created preparation 1. Then I go directly and use it for creating my primary drop list. The beauty of using preparation with dynamic arrays, for the drop list, you don't need to click and drag to select the entire list. Let's see how we do it. And the concept is I created my function once and it spills into the adjacent cells. You might be familiar with dynamic array functions. Then the function lives in one single cell. If I hit delete, I would have deleted the entire range. If I hit Control Z, I bring it all back. And if you look at any one of these cells, it's grayed out because the function lives in the top cell. And that's why when I create my primary drop list, then I can simply select the first cell. I want to create a dependent drop list of the countries. I select the cell having the dynamic array function, and I just tell Excel, well, go ahead and expand to select the entire list. So I use the spilled array symbol, which is Shift-3 on your keyboard, which is the pound sign, whatever you want to call it. I hit OK, and I would have created my drop list. Let's select Canada. I created preparation 1, followed by drop list 1. Now I'm going to create the preparation 2 because I have Canada. Then I want a list of the cities in Canada. And for this one, I'll be using a different dynamic array function, a very popular one called the filter function. Equal filter, and I hit tab. What would you like to filter? Where is your array? Well, I want to filter the cities because I just want some of them. Shift Control down arrow, Control backspace, and then I hit comma. Then what would you like to include? I want to include the countries if they are equal to Canada. So I select the first value, Shift Control down arrow, Control backspace, if it is equal to my primary drop list. When I close the bracket and hit enter, I get a list of cities from Canada. And if I change my selection and select, let's say, France, then I get a list of cities from France. Preparation 1, drop list 1. I created preparation 2, then I go and create the dependent drop list 2. I'm selecting cell B4, my destination, Alt-D, L-Tab, L-Tab, and here all what I need is to select the top cell and then hit Shift-3 on your keyboard, the pound sign, the spilled array symbol, and then I hit OK, and I would have created my dependent drop list. If I change the country, let's say I select Egypt, and from the drop list, I'm selecting the capital, Cairo. I finished the normalized source with a vertical preparation. This is called a vertical preparation. You might not have enough space to create a vertical preparation. You might have a situation where you want to prepare horizontally, and this is what I'm going to do right now. I go to the next worksheet, and in the next worksheet, I have a list of car makes and then a list of car models. My intention is to create a drop list for the different car makes, and then according to my selection from the primary drop list, I want to select a model that corresponds to the make I selected, a primary and a secondary drop list. The pattern here is different. The pattern here is preparation 1 and 2, then drop list 1 and 2. Let's see how we create that. I want to extract a unique list of car make, then I type equal unique, the same popular function that I used before, and I select the first value, Shift Control down arrow and Control backspace, and I close the bracket. A unique function. When I hit enter, here is a unique list of car make. Now I want to extract the model for each car, but I don't want the model to be in a column. I want the model to be in a row. So let's start with the first one. I'll be using a filter function, equal filter, and then I hit tab. What would you like to filter? Well, I want to filter the model. I select the first value, Shift Control down arrow, and hold on a second. I'm not hitting Control backspace as I did before. I'm going to hit F4 because I want to lock the range. I'll tell you why in a second. I'm locking the range by hitting F4, and then I hit comma. What would you like to include? Well, I want to include the column of car make if it's equal, let's say, to the first one, Hyundai. So I select the column for car make, Shift Control down arrow, and I lock it, F4. And then I say if it is equal to the first make. What happens when I close the bracket and hit enter? Look at that. It will spill down. That's not what I want. I want to convert the column into row. I don't have enough space in my worksheet. And this is what I mean by a horizontal preparation list. I put my function in the edit mode one more time. We put it by hitting F2, and then I'm going to switch the column into row by using another dynamic array function, a very popular one called the TRANSPOSE function. I hit tab, and I close the bracket at the end. I close the bracket at the end. When I hit enter, look at that. I changed the column into row. And now I need to copy down. That's why I locked the two ranges, because the function cannot spill in two directions. Then I'm going to copy this function all the way down, and I finished creating my preparation list. I'm going to delete this one, it bothers me. So here is my preparation list. What did I do so far? I created a preparation list for the make and a preparation list for the model that is transposed, that is horizontal. So the pattern here is preparation 1 and 2, unlike the previous one, where I created preparation 1, drop list 1, preparation 2, drop list 2. Let's continue. I want to start creating my primary drop list for the car make. That's pretty straightforward. I select my destination, B5, Alt-D-L, Tab L-Tab. You are quite familiar with this shortcut. I repeated it 2 million times so far. So I want to select the first value from my preparation list. And what do I hit next? The pound sign. Shift 3 on my keyboard and I hit OK. Now I got a list of car make. Let's select Honda. What about the second drop list? Let's go to the diagram to remind you what I did. In the diagram, I said when you have a horizontal drop list, then you have 2 ways for creating the second drop list, either by using an XLOOKUP or by using the ifs function. Let's see both of them. I'm going to start first creating my second drop list, my dependent drop list, by using an XLOOKUP function, and then I'm going to create it one more time by using an ifs function. As always, I like to create my functions outside so that we see the concept of the function in the data validation dialog box. It might be too small. Then I'm going to create my function that will extract the models corresponding to Honda. Equal XLOOKUP, and then I hit tab. What's your lookup value? I'm looking for Honda. I select it, and then I hit comma. Where do you look for it? I look for it in my first preparation list, this entire spilled array range. I select the first value, and then I hit Shift 3 on my keyboard to select the entire range. I hit comma, and then what's your return array? My return array will be this entire list, and I lock it. When I hit F4, I'll get an unpleasant surprise when I close the bracket. When I close the bracket and hit enter, it's extracting only the first value corresponding to Honda. Let me try another make. Maybe I have a problem with Honda. Let's try Nissan. It extracts only the first value. But look at this. I'm going to put my XLOOKUP function in the edit mode one more time, F2. And after the closing bracket, I'm going to add a second spilled array range. When I hit enter, here you go. I extracted the entire list. Now let's copy this function and put it in the data validation dialog box. I told you that the beauty of this function, not only because it's a very powerful function, but it's one of the functions that can live inside the data validation dialog box. So I'm deleting the original function. I have it in memory. And then Alt-D-L, Tab L tab. And I paste my XLOOKUP function. And I'm done. Let's test. I click here. I select Amanda. That's Armada, not Amanda. Okay, let's change the car. I'm going to select a Honda car, and from here I'll be selecting my Honda CR-V, and it's working. What's the other option? The other option is to use an ifs function. We are talking about the drop list, the second drop list. What does the ifs function do? Well, the ifs function is different than the if, and it's available in Office 2019 and in Microsoft 365. The ifs function takes a logical test and gives you only a true value, another logical test and another true value, multiple logical tests, and then so many true values, and only one true value when the condition is met will be returned. And because this function will be created by saying, if the primary drop list is Hyundai, give me this range. If it is Honda, give me this range, and so on. It's a long function. Then I created it up front, and I'm just going to share it with you right now to save some time. I'll create it here. Control V, let's have a look at the function. If B5 equals one of the makes, then return this one, and so on. Well, this function was based on a sorting, so I'm not quite sure if it will work. No, it won't work. I need to sort this one. Let's close. Okay. Now let's see. It says if B5 equals Buick, then get this list. If it is equal Chevrolet, get the second one, and so on, up to the last car make. Let me copy this function I was parking the function with a single quotation, Control C, hit escape, and then delete. I have it in memory, and I can create it in the data validation dialog box, Alt D L tab L tab, and let's paste it, and then hit OK. Here is my second drop list. Whether you create it by using an XLOOKUP function or you create it by using an ifs function, this is the horizontal preparation. I finished the second way of creating dependent drop lists by using dynamic arrays. Now I want to talk about the three types of special dependent drop lists. In this example, it's pretty close to what I used in the Global Excel Summit, but it's much more simplified. I have this data from a high-rise building, and in this high-rise building, I have 35 floors, and in each floor we have 8 suites, and in each suite we have a resident, and the suite can be an owned suite, a vacant suite, or a rental suite. What I would like to do is to create 4 drop lists. So I want to create a drop list for the type in cell B2. I want to create a drop list for the floor in cell B3. I want to create a drop list from which I specify whether I want to return a suite or resident. And finally, my last drop list will look at the 3 conditions. This is a 3-level dependency, and accordingly, it will extract either the suite numbers or the resident names for the specified type and floor. Let's see how we create that. I'm going to start by creating my preparation list, and my preparation list will be for the floor and type. I want the unique list of floor, so I use the popular unique function. Select the first value, Shift Control down arrow Control backspace, and then hit enter, and now I have 35 floors. That's fine. I want to create a unique list of type, and to save time, I'm going to copy this function to the right, and then I put it in the edit mode F2, and I simply drag the range to select the type, and I hit enter, and I have a unique list of type. Now that I have these 2 lists of unique floor and unique type, I can use them for creating my first and second drop list. Let's do that. Alt D L tab L tab, and I want to create a unique list of type. This is a spilled array. Then I select the first value, Shift 3, and hit enter. And I can say, let's say we need the owned suites. In which floor? Let's get a list of floors. Alt D L tab L tab, and I select the first value under floor, and of course my spilled array range, and I hit OK. Now I can select a floor from the list, let's say the 6th floor. What we need to do next is to create a third drop list, because the 4th one will look at the 3 other drop lists and accordingly extract what we want. What do you want in this drop list? I want to specify whether I'll be extracting a suite number or a resident name. That's easy. Alt D L tab L tab, and let's select the 2 values and hit OK. Then I get a suite and resident. Let's select resident. Now I have 3 conditions. Owned for the type, floor number 6, and I want the resident name. Then I need the resident names in floor 6 for the owned suites. Here I'm going to create my function that will extract based upon the different conditions, and it will require further preparation. I want to create a unique list of suites if they are owned on the selected floor. I want to extract a unique list of residents based upon these 2 conditions. What's the function that I'll be using? It's a filter function with multiple conditions. It's a filter function that will filter the suites based upon these 2 conditions. Let's see how we do that. Equal filter, and then I hit tab. What do you want to filter? I want to filter the suites. Wonderful. Shift Control down arrow, but not Control backspace. I'm going to hit F4. Why am I hitting F4? I'll tell you in a second. And then I hit comma. What's your condition? That's not the range that I want to lock. Equal filter, and then I hit tab. I was trying to save time. I wasted more time. Let's select the suite, shift control down arrow, and then control backspace, and then hit comment. This range will change. Right now I'm filtering the suite. Next I'm going to copy it to filter the resident. Then this one should be floating. Sorry for that. And then what would you like to include? I have two conditions. I have a condition in the type. I have a condition in the floor. When you have two conditions and you want both conditions to be met, then you multiply them. Multiplication means and. But if you want either or, then you add a plus sign. I want both conditions to be met. I open bracket. What's your first condition? It's in the type. I select the first value under type, shift control down arrow, and here is where I want to lock F4. And I'm asking, is it equal to what you selected from the drop list? That's my question, and I lock it. I close the bracket for my first condition. What about your second condition? I want it to be met simultaneously. Then I multiply. And my second condition, I open bracket, will be in the floor. Then I select the first value under floor. I expand my selection, shift control down arrow, and then I hit F4 to lock it and jump back. And I say if it is equal to the floor, and I lock it, F4. I close the bracket for the second condition. I close the bracket for my filter function. And when I hit enter, what did I get? I got a list of 4 suites. We have 8 suites in each floor, but these are only the suites on the 6th floor that are owned. I want to extract a list of resident, then that's very easy. I'm going to copy my function to the right, and that's why I was locking the range. Same function, but just switching the range from suite to resident. Now let's go and create my last function. My last function will simply say, if I have resident, then give me this list. If this list is suite, then give me this one. What's the function that can switch between two lists? It's called the switch function. It's another dynamic array function. It's a beautiful function. I already created it to save time, and I'm going to show it to you. And let's understand the function. It says, if A4, which is the drop list for the resident and suite, if it reads suite, then go ahead and give me the list of suite numbers. If it reads resident, then go ahead and give me the list of residents. That's all what the switch function is doing. Let me copy it without the single quotation. And the beauty of this function, it can switch between multiple levels. I used it for up to 8 levels, and it can be created in the data validation drop list. Let's select the final destination B4, and then let's use the shortcut Alt L-tab. And now I paste my switch function and hit OK. And we created multiple levels of dependency. These are the names, the residents of the owned suites on the 6th floor. What if I change and instead of resident, I want a suite? Then if I look here, I get a list of suite numbers. What if I want, let's say, the 12th floor or the 14th floor? Then if I look here, I have a different list and so on. What if I change from owned, let's say, to rental? Then I get a calculation error. What does it mean? It means we don't have rental units on the 14th floor. Maybe we do have on another floor. Let me try this one. Yes, on the 16 we have, and the contents of the drop list change automatically. Of course, I can neutralize this issue by wrapping my function inside an error fixing function. I finished the first type under special types, the multiple dependency. Now let's go to the next one, visual dependency. I go to the next worksheet, visual dependency, and I have the same example where I have a list of car makes and car models. And what I would like to do is to create a drop list from which I select the model. Selecting a model from a drop list might be confusing. Then it will be great if I can see the list of models indented under the different car makes. But I don't want to select a car make, although it will be available. I just want to make it visual that this is a make, this is a model, and accordingly it will facilitate the steps for selection. To create this kind of visual dependency or illusion of dependency, I'll be using a pivot table. So I select a single cell, I go to the Insert tab, I click on Pivot Table. I want to create my pivot table in the existing worksheet, and let's say I create it here in cell D3. I want to drag the make to the rows, and I want to drag the model to the row. I close my pivot table field list. And because I want to create kind of indentation, I'm going to prepare for that by changing the design layout. On the Design tab, I'll be selecting Report Layout, and I'll change it Show in Outline Form. At the same time, I want to repeat the same label, but I want to keep this cell blank. I'll be capitalizing on that. So if I click on Report Layout one more time and select Repeat All Item Labels, now I have the same label repeated. I don't want the grand total, so I'll turn it off. And now I'm ready to use this pivot table in creating one single indented column. The make will be outdented. The model will be indented. Once I create it, I'll be using it in cell G4. My function is simple. My function will look at this cell. I told you I'll be capitalizing on this cell. And if it says, if it is blank, then I understand that it's a make. Go ahead and bring it. If it's not blank, then in this case, give me the model. Equal if, and then I hit tab. If cell E4 equals blank or double quote, what do you want to do? Give me the make. And then come. Otherwise, what would you like to do? I want the model. But if I bring the model, there will be no indentation. So I need to add some spaces before the model. I need 5 or 6 or 7 spaces. How do I do that? I use a repeat function. So I'll be typing REPT, and I open bracket. What would you like to repeat? I want to indent, let's say, by 6 spaces. So I'll be typing double quote space, double quote, and then I hit comma. You can add 5, 6, whatever you want, and then I close the bracket. After the space, go ahead and bring the model. So I use the joining operator of Excel, Shift 7 on your keyboard, and then I click on cell E4. When I close the bracket and hit enter, now I can copy this function all the way down. I can even go beyond the pivot table, assuming that more records will be added. When I copy it below the last record, I get a set of zeros, and that doesn't look nice in a drop list. And at the same time, using this column with the if function, although it looks nice that it's indented, and here is the visual dependency that I meant, but at the same time, I could get rid of the zeros and create my drop list with one single cell. How can I do that? So I'll be using a filter function. This is my last preparation list. Equal filter, and I hit tab. And for the filter, I want to filter this entire column, Shift Control down arrow, Control backspace, and then I hit comma. What would you like to include? I want to include this column if it's not a 0. So I select the same column one more time, and then I say greater than, smaller than, if it is not a 0, and I close the bracket. When I hit enter, I get my list that will be used for creating the visual dependent drop list. Now if I go down, I excluded the zeros. How do I create my drop list? Very simple. We did it many times. Alt-DL, tab L tab, and I select the first cell, and Shift 3 on my keyboard, the spelled array symbol. When you click on the down arrow, then here you get the list of car makes are outdented, and the models for each make are indented. So I'm prompting the user to select a model. So if the user selects a model, then that's fine. This is what I want. But what if the user selects a make? I want to draw the attention of the user that I just want a model, although I'm saying here it's a model. Then I'm going to make it simple by adding another function that returns either a check mark if the selection is right, or an X mark if the selection is wrong. What is this function? I say equal if, and I hit tab. If what you selected is indented by 5 or 6 characters, then in this case, you have a right selection. So I say if left of your selection in J4, and I say 6 characters, because I have 6 spaces, equals the repeat function. I type a space in double quote, comma 6. That means if you have 6 characters to the left side of J4, then your selection is correct. Then, comma, value if true, return 1. Otherwise, return a 0. So if I select a model, I'll get 1. And because I have conditional formatting icon sets applied, then look at this. It says correct. But if I select a make, then in this case, it's giving me an X. I can make it even better by drawing the attention of the user if the selection is wrong, by creating an if function that will say, well, this is a make, please select a model. Or if I select a model, it will tell me the make of this car is so and so. This is another if function, equal if, and then I hit tab. I can look at cell K4 having 1 and 0 and say if K4 equals 1, then you have a right selection. Then let's go and get the make of this car. Then in double quotation, I say the make is, and this space, I'm typing in double quote, and I join it to a function that will look at J4, my drop list, and will go and extract the make of this car. What is this function? An XLOOKUP function. So I type XLOOKUP, and then I hit tab, look at my selection in J4, and then comma, where do you look for it? Look for it in the second column of the pivot table, select all the models, and then what's your return array? I want to return the make. Then in this case, I select this entire column. For the make, I select the entire column, click and drag. And then that's the value if true. I close the bracket for the XLOOKUP function. And then I type a comma. What if it is 0? Then it's not 1, that I'm selecting a make, which is wrong. Then I guide the user by another text, please select a model. Double quote, and I close the bracket. I'm selecting right now the right thing. I'm selecting a model, but look what happens. An unpleasant surprise. It tells me not available. The reason is, when I used my XLOOKUP function, it's taking this value and it looks at an exact match in this column, although it's not exact because I have some spaces here. So if I put my function in the edit mode, and for the lookup value of the XLOOKUP function, I want to get rid of the zeros, so I precede it with a trim function. So if I type trim, and now I close the bracket for J4, and now if I hit enter, it's working. If I select, let's say, Chrysler, please select a model. My last example for this presentation, how to create a primary and secondary drop list in one single cell. So I go to the last worksheet, and here is my example. I have a list of employees, and I have a list of managers. And what I would like to do is to create one single drop list that returns either or. And to do that, I prepare by doing two things. The first thing I'm going to do is to name each range. So I'm going to select the first range, and I want to create from selection I go to the Formulas tab of the ribbon and click on Create from Selection, Control-Shift F3, and then I hit OK. Then I named this one All Employees. I'll do the same for the second range, the Manager, Create from Selection, and I hit OK. And I created two named ranges. Let's test All Employees. That's fine. I also prepared for that by adding the name of the second drop list as a first item in my first drop list. So I'm going to start creating an if function. The if function will say, if your drop list reads managers, go ahead and select the list of managers. Otherwise, select the other list. So I'm going to create this list inside the data validation drop list, Alt-L tab L tab, and it's a simple if function, equal if, and then I open bracket. If cell B1, my drop list, equals, in double quote, managers, and I close the double quotation, comma, go ahead and return the named range, managers. I hit F3 and select managers and hit OK. I'm in an if function. I'm in the value of if false. If I type a comma, now I want all employees. I told you a while ago that I cannot use the F3 twice. I'm hitting F3 repeatedly now, and it doesn't respond. You can use it only once. And this is a shout out to Microsoft team to fix this issue. Now I want all employees. I'm going to type it, all employees. And I close the bracket for my if function, and I'm done. So what should I see here? I should see a list of all employees. These are all employees. I can select any one of them. I also have a conditional formatting applied. So if I select managers, it will turn red, and it will end the list. The contents of the list will change to show the managers. So if I go to the top and select managers, I see it in red. And if I look at the contents of the list, now I can see a list of managers. That was the last example in this presentation. It has been a long presentation. I apologize for that. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this presentation. And now let's go to the interesting part, your gift. If you missed any part of this presentation, then you can use the graphic, colorful, multi-page, step-by-step guide to repeat the same exercise, and you will have access to the exercise file. To get the quick reference card and the exercise file, you can log on to my website, officeinstructor.com/gift, and you will need the password meetup. officeinstructor.com/gift, and you will need the password meetup. It's capital M. I just want to show you another announcement before I put the link for the gift one more time on screen. So my other announcement is here. This is my book, Data Validation, A Backdoor to Master Excel. And although it's available on Amazon as paperback, but if you want to get it at a very, very low price, then I'm offering 60% off during this session by using the coupon code Office60. This code expires on the 29th of January, and you get it from my website, officeinstructor.com/shop. I'm going to put both of them one more time on screen, but just give me a second to thank all of you for your patience. Thank you for your time. I hope you found value in my presentation. And until we meet in another learning adventure, that was Nabil Mourad. Thank you very much.
Big round of applause to Nabil. A big round of applause to Nabil. Thank you, Nabil. That was fantastic.
Thank
yay.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
The chat was so quiet at the beginning of your presentation. I even thought something was wrong because usually they are quite chatty. But
I thought myself that they left the session.
they were so quiet. And then they were commenting on, people were commenting on how hot you were in your presentation for being so intense, so much content, so much value.
And you know, the power of presentation, power of presentation is we still have 64 people here. So thank you.
Yes, everybody was, they just grabbed their seat and they were just staying there, paying a lot of attention. I could feel it because, like I said, most of the time the chat was very quiet. People are saying thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Nabil. Thank you for all the so detailed presentation. A lot of things there, surprising things there. A lot of people were also, and I will say the same thing, that we will need to rewatch these a few times on YouTube when we have the recording available, because it's something that we cannot, some of the things we cannot retain it. only at the first. Yeah, that was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Nabil hit us hard. Yeah.
Thank you, Oz, for attending all the presentation, and thanks for Alain Beret as well. Thank you very much.
Oz, when are you gonna team up with Nabil?
Oh yeah, Brandon. Man, I don't know. Brandon. Yeah. Brandon called that what you whooped that choose out on folks. Said, oh man, Nabil brought the smoke.
Thank you very much.
Transpose folks set us on our side.
There are two people with their hands risen. I don't know. I know, Nabil, that you have to leave very shortly. I don't know if they have questions. Julie and HC. If there are any questions or comments, let us know. But maybe, I don't know if Nabil can answer today. If not, then we can maybe think about it for later and ask.
Tell those people to just jump in. Don't be formal with that hand raising jive. Just jump in.
Just curious.
Nabil is giving out heart attacks today.
Julie, what was it?
So I couldn't understand what you were saying, Nabil. Did you call it a spilled array symbol? The shift 3?
Yes, spilled array. Spilled array. Yeah, Oz can help me and pronounce it better. English is my third language.
And I got this weird country southern U.S. accent, so I might make it worse. Spilled array. SPILLED.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought I heard, but it didn't make sense. So I was like, Okay, thank you.
A to the Y.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes.
So if you look, Julie, if you look for dynamic array functions, if you look for documentation about that online, you will get the explanation about what that is. It's when you type in a formula in one cell, but because the results are multiple values, not just one, then the results will spill out of that cell to many rows or different rows or columns, depending on what the result is. And this happens if you are using Microsoft 365, Excel for Microsoft 365 subscription. It doesn't exist on the standalone versions, even if it is 2019. Is it available in 2019, Excel 2019?
No.
I don't think it is. No. Okay. Yeah,
but
so you need
Julie,
Microsoft
check it out.
365.
Check it out. It's a beautiful thing. Keeps everything
Thank
snap
you.
and tight. And with no refresh button, nothing.
Yes, it automatically updates when your data changes. So it's a beautiful thing to look for.
Beautiful.
We have our first
horses going across the plains in Arizona. Unlike teams, just some old clumsy mule.
Nabil, if you need to leave, please feel free to do so, because I know you cannot
I would
stay.
like to thank all of you one more time for
Thank you.
attending the whole presentation, and I hope to see you again in future meetups. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening.
We do say thank you to you, Nabil. Thank you very much to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
That picture brings back good memories. I stood right there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
was waiting for Nabil, and then he shows up like 6 years later.
Yeah, Nabil, I still have your, you gave me the shortcut pad, like for the mouse pad. Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. He's the master of the shortcuts, and he has a list of all those shortcuts. Julie, another thing about the dynamic arrays.
Yeah, this is the one he gave it to me first time when I met him.
You met him, all right. You met him in real life.
Just let me say something to Julie about the dynamic arrays. The very first video on our YouTube channel, I can search it for you. It was a presentation by Alan Murray. I don't know if he's still around or if he's still there. And unfortunately, because it was my first session being recorded and using Teams, the first session online, I totally forgot to start the recording. So it has kind of 20 or 30 minutes that are missing from that recording. It still hurts until today. But if you, I'm going to put the link there, and if you listen to it, Alan goes through a few of those dynamic array functions.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then you can search. There's a lot of content online about that.
Can I ask the question? Is there any of these functions that I'm looking on a Microsoft Office Professional Plus, and I noticed that some of the things like unique and filter are missing as functions. Is there a way to get it in the Professional Plus version, or is this only like Office 360 at home version?
Is it now it's not called Office anymore. I believe it's Microsoft 365. That's the name. And only if you have a Microsoft subscription type of license is when you get the dynamic array functions in your Excel. If you have Office 2016, 2019, or any one of the previous ones, the older ones, it doesn't come with dynamic arrays and many other new stuff that they have been putting out lately. Unfortunately, but I think that's how business is. So if we get a subscription, it's you can pay it annually. I'm not sure if monthly as well, but annually usually, and it's about 100 Canadian dollars, something like that, 110 per year. And it comes with not only all the Office applications, you can use Excel online. So it's a lot of value in there. In most of the cases, I think it is worth. Julie, I put the link for the video I was mentioning on the chat.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Celia.
Karen was also. Yes.
So I've been creating some spreadsheets with drop-down lists, and I'm finding the users aren't able to jump to items using the keyboard. So they're having to select with the mouse. And I'm wondering if there's any way around that, or am I just doing it wrong?
Say that again, please. So you when create the drop-down list?
Right, when a user uses the drop-down list, let's say it's alphabetical or whatever, if I hit D to jump to the one that starts with D, it doesn't work.
That is a long time issue, and folks have been asking Microsoft to do that. There are all kind of delicate, flimsy hacks to do it, But if you have to change something, woe be unto you.
Yeah, and I don't want to deal with that. That's too bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's one of the things that I think work well on Google Sheet, works well
Yeah.
on Google Sheets, but not it doesn't work in Excel, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So something like you start typing and it guesses where you want to
Right.
go.
Right.
One of the things that I
think
usually
Aya
do.
Garani's got a video on that on YouTube.
Layla Garani?
I think she has, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
she's
a
got
few.
video on it. Yeah.
There's a few ways of going around that, but I think all of those videos I've watched, the ways of solving that, they work well if you have one cell with your drop-down list. If you need to have your data validation throughout down a column, then those tricks, I don't think they work, at least the ones I've seen. There's probably ways of doing it. So if you have one cell only where you want to start typing and want it to start guessing what you want and give you just the options on your drop down that match your first few characters, there's multiple solutions, even one that, at least one that doesn't need the dynamic arrays dynamic array functions. There's ways of doing that. But then if you need to repeat that throughout an entire column, it's not so, it doesn't work.
And I'm doing it throughout an entire column for data entry.
What I do a lot of times, and it's not convenient all the time, but in some circumstances, if you can add all the alphabet to your list, so you have your list of options, and then you add A, B, C, D, and so forth, and then you sort your list. And then you create your data validation based on that list that includes your items plus the alphabet letters, then it will work. So if you type A, or if it's not very helpful, if you type P, then and then open the drop down, it will show you P. But that's because you have P on your list of options. But at least it jumps you down to all the to P, and then you can choose from there. You don't have to scroll as much. Sorry, Oz, I think you were saying something.
No, I wasn't saying it. Alan just said that he's got 2 videos on it on his channel.
Oh, great. Yes.
But the bottom line, Karen, is no, you're not missing out on anything. You just gotta either deal with it or come up with some of these hacks.
At least you know you're not doing something different to the rest of us.
Exactly.
I'm frustrated by the same thing as everybody else. I like that.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully they will fix that. I don't know if that will ever happen because it's a long time request. Mayura.
We have, yeah, I was just going to say that.
Do you want to ask something or comment?
Who is that?
Hi, Celia. I got my answer. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to lower your hand.
And
Steve?
Steve. Any questions, Steve?
Steve, you can unmute yourself and just ask questions.
Maybe he just forgot his hand there.